What if the greatest danger in your life isn't out there in the world, not in politics, not in the economy, not even in the people who hurt you, but buried inside yourself? Carl Jung believed the most dangerous thing a person can do is ignore what lies in the depths of their own mind. He called it the shadow, the hidden side of the self, the part you refuse to see, the part you pretend doesn't exist. Think about it. How often do you tell yourself, that wasn't me? When you snap in anger, how many times do you justify toxic relationships, endless scrolling, or destructive habits, while quietly knowing you're running from something deeper? Jung warned us, the more we deny these truths, the stronger they become. The shadow is not a monster hiding in the dark. It is you. It is every fear you buried, every desire you've repressed, every truth you've locked away. And here's the dangerous part. What you refuse to face within yourself will eventually appear outside of you, in your choices, in your relationships, in the patterns that repeat like clockwork. Jung's most dangerous discovery was this. Until you confront the shadow, you will never truly be free. So the real question is not, what are you hiding from the world? The real question is, what are you hiding from yourself? And that's where our journey begins. Because once you start to see the shadow, you can never look at yourself or your life the same way again. But what does it actually feel like to carry this hidden self? Let me take you inside my own story. For a long time, I believed my struggles came from outside of me. Unfair bosses, broken relationships, missed opportunities. It was easier to point to the world and say, that's why I'm unhappy. But deep down, I knew there was another truth. When I refused to face, late at night, when the noise of the day finally fell silent, I would catch a glimpse of it, the part of me that I kept hidden, the anger I swallowed but never expressed, the envy I felt when others succeeded, the fear that I wasn't enough. I buried these feelings under productivity, distractions, and excuses. Outwardly, I seemed fine, but inside, something was cracking. Think about it. How many times have you laughed off a painful comment, pretending it didn't sting? Or convinced yourself you were just tired, when really, you were drowning in self-doubt? That's the shadow at work. Not evil, not dangerous by itself, but dangerous when ignored. For me, it showed up in patterns I couldn't escape. Projects I abandoned halfway through. Friendships that collapsed without explanation. A constant restlessness. Like something inside me was unfinished. I thought I was unlucky. Maybe even cursed. But the truth was far more unsettling. I was running from myself. And here's the dangerous part. The more I denied these pieces of myself, the louder they became. My shadow didn't disappear. It started to control me from the background, pulling strings I couldn't see. But Jung believed the shadow wasn't just a burden. It was also the key to transformation. So what exactly is the shadow? And how do we begin to face it? The deeper I went, the less I could tell where I ended and where my shadow began. It was not a stranger lurking in the dark corners. It was me refracted through a broken mirror. Every dream carried its fingerprints. Faces I despised, voices I rejected, impulses I swore were not mine. And yet they returned, uninvited, night after night. Jung wrote that the shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply what the conscious mind refuses to accept. But the refusal does not make it disappear. It only drives it deeper, until it erupts in projection. Suddenly, I saw my own anger in the eyes of others. I judged people harshly, never realizing I was condemning what I could not bear to acknowledge in myself. This was the cruel paradox of the shadow. It is both the enemy and the key. The very traits I disowned carried the power I lacked. My rage was not just destruction, it was strength, raw and unpolished. My envy was not just poison, it was a compass pointing to unlived desires. To reject them outright was to live half a life. Hollow, incomplete, Still, the thought was terrifying. What if giving the shadow space meant being consumed by it? What if acceptance opened the door to chaos? These questions haunted me. Yet Jung's warning echoed louder. The greatest danger is man's attempt to sever himself from the parts of his own soul. And so, I realized my battle was not against the shadow, but against my own refusal to see it. The stage was set. The confrontation was inevitable. The moment you finally stop running from the shadow, it feels like stepping into a mirror that shows you everything you've tried to forget. At first, it's unbearable. Shame rises. Fear whispers. The ego fights back, trying desperately to hold on to the old story. I'm fine. I don't need this. I'm not the problem. But transformation never comes without collapse. For me, it felt like breaking open. I admitted the truth I had avoided for years. I was afraid of failure. That fear had disguised itself as perfectionism, as procrastination, as endless excuses. It wasn't the world that held me back. It was me. Think about it. What's the one truth you avoid? Because it threatens the identity you've built, the truth that, if spoken out loud, could shatter the way you see yourself? That's the doorway to transformation. Jung discovered that when you bring the shadow into the light, it doesn't destroy you. It frees you. Anger turns into boundaries. Envy becomes a compass pointing to what you desire. Fear becomes fuel for courage. The very thing you rejected is transformed into strength. And here's the paradox. What feels like death in the moment, the death of your old self, your false image, is actually the beginning of a more honest life. But how do you carry this truth once you faced it? How do you live differently, knowing the shadow will always be with you? The answer lies in reflection, and in Jung's final message. Carl Jung called it the most dangerous discovery, because once you glimpse your shadow, you can never return to ignorance. You can no longer pretend the problem is only out there. You know now that the battleground is also within. But here's the hope. What you once feared becomes your guide. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the missing half of your story. And when you stop running, when you turn and listen, you begin to reclaim the pieces of yourself you left behind. Think about it. How many times have you blamed the world for your unhappiness, only to find the same patterns waiting for you wherever you go? The truth is, we carry our shadow everywhere, and only by facing it do we begin to change the pattern. For me, the turning point wasn't a grand achievement or a sudden miracle. It was a quiet moment of honesty, whispering to myself, I am afraid, but I don't have to let fear rule me anymore. That's when I realized Jung's warning wasn't meant to paralyze us with fear. It was meant to awaken us. So I'll leave you with this. Take one small step today. Name the truth you've been avoiding. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let it live in the light. Because every time you face a piece of your shadow, you move closer to wholeness. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That privilege begins the moment you stop running and start seeing. And maybe the question you've been avoiding all along is the one that will finally set you free. The confrontation did not end in victory or defeat. It ended in something stranger, a silence. For the first time, I stopped fighting. I let the shadow stand before me, not as an enemy, but as a mirror. Its eyes were my own. Its voice, though darker, carried the same timbre as mine. And in that recognition, something shifted. I saw that the shadow was not trying to destroy me. It was trying to be acknowledged. Every outburst I had condemned, every impulse I had buried was not a threat, but a fragment of my wholeness. The rage I feared was a call to assert myself. The envy I despised was a reminder of the paths I had abandoned. Even the loneliness I carried was not a punishment, but an invitation to meet myself fully. In that moment, I understood Jung's warning. The shadow becomes dangerous only when ignored. Integrated, it becomes strength, the raw energy of life itself. By holding its gaze, I felt something unexpected, not fear, but release. The walls I had built within me began to crumble. Light seeped through the cracks, not because the darkness vanished, but because I no longer resisted it. I was no longer divided against myself. This was not the end of the journey, but its turning point. The shadow had ceased to be a monster and had become a guide, and in its silent presence, I realized wholeness is not about perfection. It is about embracing contradiction, allowing both the light and the dark to coexist within the same soul. For the first time, I was not running. I was awake. And so, the journey circles back to Jung's haunting insight. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The truth is, the shadow never disappears. It walks beside us always, whispering, waiting. But when we dare to turn and face it, something extraordinary happens. We stop being fragmented. We stop pretending. We begin to live as whole human beings. Think about it. How much of your life has been spent running from the parts of yourself you fear? The anger, the jealousy, the selfishness, the vulnerability, the emotions you label as wrong. Yet, what if those very pieces hold the key to your strength? What if they are not enemies to be defeated, but guides calling you toward your real self? The dangerous discovery Jung spoke of is not that darkness exists. We all know it does. The danger lies in its intimacy. The shadow is you. It knows your secrets because it is born of them. And if you continue to exile it, it will not vanish. It will sabotage you from within. But when you invite it in, when you integrate its lessons, life changes. Your fear transforms into courage. Your envy becomes direction. Your pain becomes depth. The shadow once feared becomes an ally. So I leave you with this. Wholeness is not found in escaping darkness, but in weaving it into your light. The privilege of a lifetime, as Jung said, is to become who you truly are. And to do that, you must look into the mirror of your own soul, not to see perfection, but to see the truth, because the most dangerous discovery is also the most liberating one. The shadow is not against you. It is you